Laredo, how are we feeling tonight? I gotta tell you, it is so good to be with you once again, and it is no accident that not even 48 hours after we announced this campaign, we are right here in your community. Like you, I was born and raised in a border community. Mine is El Paso, Texas, next to Ciudad Juarez, one of the most beautiful, amazing places on the planet, if you ask me. A place that fills me with pride, in which I am so grateful, along with my wife Amy, to be raising our 3 kids, Ulysses, Molly, and Henry, all of whom go to the world-class public schools and are instructed by our world-class public school educators in dual language programs. So not only are they learning Spanish in Spanish class, they are learning Spanish in math class, they're learning English in literature class, and then they switch the languages the next day. And I'll say, hey kids, there's this great place named Taco Palenque in Laredo. And they say, Dad, don't you mean Taco Palenque? And Laredo, yes, kids, that's what I mean. And if you want to know about the border, just ask us. If you are concerned about immigration, I'll tell you, we live and breathe and exist in communities of immigrants, and we understand that their presence in Laredo, their presence in El Paso, their presence in Texas, their presence in the United States of America makes us more successful, makes us stronger, and makes us safer. And we're proud of the fact that we are a community of immigrants from the world over who have chosen to live among us and make us better with what they have been able to contribute. And where we need to improve our immigration laws, and all of us, Republicans and Democrats alike, can agree that we should be able to do better. Well, listen, come to Laredo and listen to Richard Raymond, or listen to Sylvia Brune, or listen to those who have experience day in and day out with these issues. We have got the solutions for you. And by the way, they're not Democratic Party solutions. They're not Republican Party solutions. They are Texas solutions. The other thing that we'll remind you, if you ask us and you don't live on the border, is that we are so much more than immigration. We're about world-class public schools. We're about creating the best jobs in America right here in this community. We're about getting infrastructure funded so that our roads are paved, our bridges are fixed, we have mass transit systems we can count on, broadband, internet, so we can get online to finish our education, start a business, look for a job, find a date maybe for anybody who's single. And we have a fierce pride in where we're from and who we are, and not what we need, but what we are willing to contribute to the success of Texas and the rest of the United States. That is why I am here in Laredo tonight. And I'll tell you what you have taught me, and what you have taught the rest of Texas, and why you give me so much encouragement for the future of this campaign and this race and our state. When you have a challenge in front of you, you find a way to come together and overcome it. Let me give you some examples. I was here in February when the power grid failure knocked the lights out, shut the heat down, froze your pipes, which later burst, water flowed, ruined so many of your homes and apartments and offices and buildings. Now, that wasn't due to Mother Nature or our dear Lord. It was the man who sits in the governor's mansion, who is more beholden to the energy CEOs and his campaign contributors than he was to you and to me and the people that he should be serving as a governor of 30 million in the state of Texas. In fact, not a month after that power grid failure, one of his largest campaign contributors, Kelsey Warren, whose company made $2.4 billion on that disaster that not only knocked out your power and ruined your drywall, it killed hundreds of our fellow Texans, including an 11-year-old boy who literally froze to death in his bed because in the energy capital of North America, we could not keep the power running. Within a month, he writes Greg Abbott $1 million campaign contribution check, almost a tip on the $2.4 billion that he made. We need someone in that office who's going to look out for all of us, who's going to fix the grid, who's going to make sure that when you flip that switch, the lights actually turn on, that we can attract the top employers in this nation to this state because they can count that the grid is going to work. We're going to do things like weatherizing that grid. We're going to interconnect with the national grid so we can draw down power when we need it. In other words, we're going to do the common sense things that people expect of us, coming together, not by party, but as Texans. And you, Laredo, showed us how to do that, because when I was here, I heard story after story after story about neighbors knocking on each other's doors, checking in. This 86-year-old neighbor of mine, one of you told us, she can't walk and she depends on her children who live in another city to help her out. They can't get here because of this power grid failure. The roads are ice. So we knocked on her door and we brought her over to our house and we fed her. We made sure she was warm. We took care of her. And most importantly, we made sure that she knew that we cared. And man, that is a powerful thing that kept a lot of people alive. Though the people in power failed us, you did not fail one another. You did this out of a sense of responsibility and duty to each other. Now imagine if we had a governor who felt the same way. In this beautiful community that has an unrivaled view of the Rio Grande River, it has some of the best beachfront property you can find in the state of Texas. When they wanted to build a wall that would do nothing to deter immigration, that would do nothing to make this community safer, that would do nothing to improve the aesthetics and the natural wonder of which you can boast, you stood up and you said, not for us here in Laredo. And you stood up to the president at the time, you stood up to those in Congress who wanted to see that wall built, and you also stood up to your city council and your mayor to make sure that the message was clear. We're not building a wall here in Laredo. That's the people of this community overcoming. Y además, when we were already the toughest state in which to cast a ballot and register and participate in our elections, and our governor, in his infinite wisdom, said we need to change the election laws again and make it even harder for you to vote, especially if you're young, if you have a disability, if you happen to live in a community and a county like this one. You said, you know what, the governor might do that, but thanks to Richard Raymond and those other Texas legislators who did everything they could to stop that, we're going to follow their lead and their inspiration, and we're going to get to work. We don't care, ultimately, if you change the rules. We'll figure a way to win nonetheless. And thanks to my friend, Letty Trejo, and Sylvia Green, and these amazing volunteers, just in the last few months, they have registered more than 2,000 new voters here in Laredo. All our heroes. You all are heroes. There's Letty right there. And this is the important one, and the reason that we're gathered here today. The way in which we're going to overcome the division and the smallness in the state, the extremism, whether it's on women's choices about their own body and their own health care, whether it's about this crazy, dangerous, permitless carry law that allows anyone to carry a loaded gun in public without a background check. And despite the fact that law enforcement, whom we support and whom we want to make sure that we fund, begged the governor not to sign it because it made their officers and their deputies less safe and less able to serve and protect those that they were sworn to look out for. He did it nonetheless. This craziness about deciding which middle school girl can play in which athletic team, we're going to get past this division and get on to the big things in Texas, like making sure that we focus on the things that everybody in Laredo wants. We want to make sure that we can work a great job. We want to make sure that our kids go to a world-class school. We want to make sure that we follow the lead of our great state reps and do common sense things like expand Medicaid so more people can see a doctor. And no one has to die of diabetes or curable cancers, or a common flu right here in this beautiful, bold state. And the way we're going to do it is we are going to invoke the spirit of Laredo once again, the way in which you have found these challenges, and come together and then overcome them. Because here's the conventional wisdom, and this is a challenge. The last time a Democrat was elected to serve as governor of the state of Texas was more than 30 years ago. That was long before any of you were even alive. They say, look, Beto, you gave it a great run in 2018. You got within 215,000 votes of Ted Cruz, 2 points, but you came up a little bit short. And even though we produced the largest voter turnout in Texas since 1970 in a midterm election, even though young people turned out at an increase of 500% from the previous midterm, and even though we added 12 new Democrats to the state legislature to join Richard Raymond, we didn't do enough to win at the top of the ticket. Beto, how in the world could you win in this environment in this year if you couldn't do it before? Well, I'll tell you what, we only have to point our fellow Texans towards our opportunities. They already know how Greg Abbott has failed them. We've got to focus on a big, bold vision that includes every single one of us. Y no me importa si son republicanos o demócratas o independientes. Vamos a contar en todos. Everybody counts in this vision going forward. And much in the way that you have come together and overcome these other challenges, we in this campaign are going to come together and overcome this challenge. We're going to go to every single part of this state, listen to everyone, bring everybody in, nobody written off, and nobody taken for granted. This old conventional wisdom that depending on your ethnicity or the color of your skin that you're going to vote for a certain political party, that's crazy. And if the great sin committed by Republicans in the past was to try to disenfranchise voters based on the color of their skin, then the great sin committed by Democrats was to take those same voters for granted. We don't do that to anyone. We talk with everyone. So with Sylvia and Letty and Richard and others as our leaders, we're going to go door to door, house to house, bring everybody into this election. We're going to do it county by county, all across the state of Texas. We're going to meet the nearly 7 million voters who did not cast a ballot in 2020 and bring them into this election. And with your help, we will win, and I will serve you as the next governor of the great state of Texas. Thank you for coming out. I'm looking forward to being with you. Gracias a todos.